Hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of Her Faith at Work. This week is going to be a little bit different. I am going to share with you a podcast that I had the privilege of being a guest on last week. My good friend Melissa Hughes has a podcast called She Can Share. I highly recommend you putting it on your weekly listen list. That's hard to say. Listen list. Anyway, go subscribe. She Can Share. And you are going to get a whole lot of wisdom out of it, I promise you. But she asked me to come and speak to her mentorship community last week, and she recorded that for her podcast, and she has graciously shared it with us. So the conversation revolves around personal branding and strategy for personal branding, and we kind of go in several different directions during the course of our time together, but I think you're going to get some value out of it. At least I hope you do. So here's just a little window into my life as a guest on the She Can Share podcast. Let's get started.
Truth time. When's the last time you raised your hands for a swift kick in the pants? Well, I'm the no-nonsense type friend who's going to tell you when you have food in your teeth. So, let's get right to it. This is your infusion of sacred and secular, calling you higher into who God created you to be, how intimately faith applies to every part of your life, and how you can live that faith walk every single day in the marketplace. I've felt the tension of separation of church and state. I've been one of a few women at a table of men for decades, and I've stood my ground. Are you ready to do the same? These tools, resources, and interviews are meant to do just that. I'm Jan Touchberry, and it's time to share her faith at work.
Hey guys, welcome back to the She Can Share podcast. I'm pumped to have today's guest on the show, Jan Touchberry, who is not just a good friend of mine, but is incredible with branding and business. And this is a little bit about who Jan is. She's the founder and lead collaborator at the Brand Collaborative, where they focus on unearthing the gold in your personal and professional brand. She is passionate about partnering with her clients to create visual brand assets and websites that stand out from the crowd, drawing your ideal clients. She's a full-time vocational ministry in Dallas, Texas, loves spending time with her husband, 4 kids, and 2, almost 3 grandkids. Jan, welcome to the show.
So glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Jan is I've known Jan and I have known each other, I guess, just for about a year, but
Yeah.
I've gotten to know her and love her the more and more every time we get on a call. And she is an 8 on the Enneagram for anyone that's interested or does that. And she'll tell you like it is. So that's why I love having her in my life. That's why everybody needs to know her and follow her, because she's not going to blow smoke up your dress. She's going to tell you the truth. And she's going to also give you a pat on the back in the meantime. So we're really going to have a conversation today about branding, personal branding, and strategy. So that's why I wanted to bring her in, because Jan is the type of friend where I'll call her and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And what about this? And we'll go back and forth on strategizing. And I just thought she'd be an awesome guest to have for anyone that's feeling stuck, not really sure where they're at in their business, kind of feeling like, what's the next step? I feel like our conversation today is hopefully going to shed some light on that. So, Jan, how does that sound to you?
That sounds so great. You have pushed all my passion buttons. So let's go. Go.
Okay. So, Jan, I was thinking before this call, and I know we chatted actually before we talked about brand strategy. And, I do a lot with social media. And I think one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is how social media is really just the top of the funnel in anyone's business. And I remember when it was a light bulb moment for me when I realized that. But I want to just kind of hear your thoughts on if someone is looking at social media and growing their personal brand or growing their business, what is the customer journey? Can you just walk us through that?
Well, I can try. Everyone's customer journey is going to be a little bit different depending on your business and what you're selling or what your ministry is. I think that the social media landscape has changed a lot over the last 5 years. It's really been it's been a fast forward. When I started my first online business back in 2013, social media was the way that everybody did business. And it was not only top of the funnel, but it was the funnel.
Mm,
That's it. It was the funnel. You come into social media, you buy from social media. But I think over the last, especially 5 years, we're seeing the social media landscape change. I think more and more people are you're hearing social media burnout, that term, a lot.
mm,
I know that I have been in that space, and it's a little terrifying as someone who runs their business in the online space, thinking, oh my gosh, I've got this beast called social media that is taking up so much of my time, and I'm not really getting the return on investment that I did 5 years ago or even 12 months ago. And do I still keep pouring all my time and efforts and energy into this thing? And what happens if it's not working? And I think that's where we get into trouble, because people don't realize that it's not just the funnel anymore. It literally is just the top. And if you don't have anything to pull them through underneath that, you are in trouble.
mm.
So I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that word vomit.
Yeah, no, that's good,
It's
Jan.
just a
And
lot.
I think it's great. I think that like understanding where you've come from, and can you share a little bit about that too for people that don't
Oh,
talk to you
sure.
every other day?
Yeah. Oh,
Because
yes.
yeah, Jan has been in the online space for a very long time, and she does online ministry with her church, which is incredible. So yeah, tell us a little bit about what you've noticed as far as like those changes.
Sure, sure. So I started online ministry in 2010 when it wasn't cool, like no one was doing it. And so I've been in the online space. I've always been an early adopter. And so this thing called the internet was very intriguing to me. And, all of I'm old, y'all. I'm old. And so all of the old school things were like so cool. And you just had to have, AOL instant messenger and all the things, right? And so that morphed into what I call an accidental business. I started in a network marketing company, and really social media was just kind of birthing and getting started. And it was a great place to sell. It was fantastic. And so building a business in the online space was so intriguing to me, because I didn't have that when I was a mom of young kids. And I desperately desired to have an income where I could stay home with my babies. And here's this magical thing called the internet, where now moms can stay home with their babies and still earn an income. And oh my gosh, I have to tell everybody about it. I was so excited. And so I started really teaching how other people could make money in the online space. And at my church job, I was not only the online pastor, but I was also in the communications department doing social media. I started our Facebook account, the very first one, with no people. And back in the day, it was like, oh yeah, social media is just a fad. I'm like, you're wrong. It is here to stay. And it's, fast forward, what has it been, like 11 years now since I really started doing all of that online business stuff. And the landscape really has changed, and it's become um, there's the time that it's like a pay to play. You're not going to get it's organic traffic is so much harder now to
Mhm.
get. If you don't have money to put behind ads, are you really going to make the amount of money that you want if you're just literally posting and praying that it gets put in front of the eyes that need to see it, because you're at the mercy of the almighty algorithm?
Mhm.
And if you don't understand the algorithm, or God forbid it change in 24 hours, and what was working yesterday doesn't work today, it's so much. And I feel burdened for those who are in the online space trying to make a living and trying to keep up with all of that. And run a business at the same time.
Mm,
It's hard. And so I think coming back around to what your original question was about strategy,
mhm.
it's part of a strategy. Absolutely. I think it should be. I think
Mhm.
everyone needs some sort of online presence, social media presence. Um, but it doesn't have to look like it did a year ago. It doesn't have to look like it did 5 years ago. It can't. And so, really figuring out how that works in your overall strategy, how much time do you have that you're willing to and able to devote to it, and still be pushing the ball forward to reaching all of your personal business goals? I think
Mhm.
that really is the question.
Yeah, I think that's great, Jan. And I love how you have like such a wealth of experience in the online space because you're right. In 2010, it wasn't cool. I
It
mean,
was not.
I look back at my posts from 2010. I'm like, I was so weird. Why was I posting that online? Do you guys ever do that? You look at your Facebook memories and you're like, what?
Yes.
No, no.
Dan Touchberry says, blah, 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 blah. Like it wasn't even in first person. What was that? I don't know.
No, it's true. But I do love what you're saying, only in the sense of like it's important as business owners and also people that are doing this that we understand like the full story and the full picture of how it all plays a part. And so I think like it was news to me even when I was like, "Oh, like if I'm putting out content, I need to like have a place that I'm bringing them into to build community." Because I've heard people say like in this community, but it's not, it's an audience. It's like, where are you building that community? So just different ways to do that, like through an email list or a Facebook group, right? Or your membership. So I think it's just knowing that like you're putting content out there to bring people into something. And we've talked about even like you're really big on text lists, right?
Mhm. Yes, I love text lists. Everyone texts. Everyone texts.
Yeah. You helped me set up mine. And I think I use it for this group, the social media mentorship. But outside of that, Jan, I got to get on my text list game. But what would you say, as far as like how do you get somebody off of social media into like your business? Some people might not even know the term lead magnet. Can you explain what a lead magnet is and how to create a good one?
Sure. Well, I think you do know what they are because you've probably all opted into one or 1,000 or 1 million of them. That's how you get on other people's email lists, right? You find something that they have that is valuable to you, and in exchange for that thing, you give them your email address or your text number. Different people are doing it different ways now, or some you'll notice are asking for both your email address and your text number. I am on so many text lists now. It's like you almost can't get on a lead magnet without also offering your phone number these days. I think people are finally catching on to that. Again, early adopter. Um, but the basic premise of a lead magnet is because if social media, you've probably heard this, social media is real estate that we do not own. It is owned by Meta, or for those of you on Twitter, Elon Musk. It's not owned by us. And as evidence, just when was it, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, that everybody was locked out of Facebook, and you're like, oh no, now what? I have zero access to all of the people that I am trying to pitch my stuff to. I can't get a hold of them because
Mm.
it's poofed. It's in the interwebs and I can't get to it. And that is not a solid business plan. You can't run a business with leads that you don't have control over. So you have to have a way, i.e., lead magnet, to get them from the space that you don't own to the space that you do own, which is some sort of a list, email or text list.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think one of the challenges that I know people struggle with, and that's good, Jan, is like how do you know what's a good lead magnet? How do you know I mean, do you have any like processes or things that you think of? I know it's like think of something that's valuable that someone else would want, but I think for ourselves it's hard sometimes to know what would be valuable for somebody else. So
Sure.
do you have a process that you take people on or that you think through to help kind of unearth that?
Well, so this is it's gonna sound pretty nebulous because it's not like a step one, step two, step three. It really is having a conversation with the people that are my clients. I find out what they're passionate about. And one of the ways that the Lord has gifted me is that I see in people ways that they can make money. I just see it. I know it sounds a little weird and a little mystical, but if I talk to you for 5 minutes, I will have at least two or three new ways for you to monetize your business or your offer, because that's just the way my brain works. And so lead magnets are just the top level of ways that you can get people in your funnel to make money. And so if I like Melissa, you have so many things that you're offering that could become a lead magnet. I could probably talk to you for 5 minutes and come up with 5 new lead magnets for you. And so we're so close to our own genius that we can't see the value to other people. And so when you have someone like Melissa, who is your resource in this mentorship program, you can talk to her and she's going to be able to look at your genius and say, this, and this, super valuable. Let's figure out how to create a really quick 5-step, checklist, or I know that with Michelle, we've got some scripture stuff that we're working on for a lead magnet for her. I have a scripture lead magnet. If you have a process that you take people through in your business, you can take a subset of that process and create like a teaser almost. If you have a 10-step process that you take people through for whatever it is, give them the first 3 in your
Yeah.
lead magnet. Whet their appetite, say, hey, get the first 3, XYZ, whatever it is. And then at the end of your lead magnet, there's the next step, right? If you like this and you want the other 7, click here. It takes them to whatever the next step in your funnel is.
Yeah, that's so good. It could be like a video, it could be a PDF, it could be a checklist, it could be an ebook. I know I've seen some people that have a book and they'll just do the very first chapter of their
Yeah,
book as the lead
absolutely.
magnet. Yeah, so you're just totally not reinventing the wheel. You are just using what you have
Yep.
and giving what you got.
That's exactly right. And I think that the important thing is not to overthink it. This is not something that has to be super hard for you. It actually, I mean, if you guys use Canva, there are so many lead magnet templates in Canva. So if you're not one of those people who just generate ideas, that's not me. I am not an idea generator. And so I can go in Canva and type what I'm searching for, and poof, there's 100 different templates that I can use. And I just find one that looks pleasing to my eye, because really your ideal client is a earlier version of you, usually.
Yeah.
And so you find something that would be, sorry for the terminology, clickbait to you, you would click on it and then just customize that. And so, there's so many easy ways to start just using those templates.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. So for those, just to recap, social media is top of funnel. It does take time, it takes effort, it takes energy. It's necessary. It's not the same as it was. It's important if you want to get somebody to come into your business that you have a lead magnet, something that they're going to find valuable, that they'll exchange their email or phone number to give you theirs. They come into your email list or come into a Facebook group where you can continue the conversation and add value to them. Jan, I wanted to ask you this too, and I'm going to take a little bit of like a right turn here, but something else that you're great at outside of thinking through like strategy and your brand is putting your personality into a digital footprint. And that's what branding, I think you actually said that to me. You're like, that's what I love to do as a designer, brand designer. Take your personality and put it into digital footprint with colors, fonts, and things like that. For somebody that's like listening right now and they're like, yeah, I can't figure out my colors or my fonts or like my personality. What are some simple steps that people can take if they've got the strategy and they also want it to look pretty? What are some simple steps that people can take to like understand that about themselves?
Okay, this is going to sound really funny, but I promise this is what works. Look in the mirror, look in your closet, and look around your house, and you will find yourself. We surround ourselves with our brand. My house is my brand. My office is my brand. And when I try to deviate from it, it doesn't sit well with me. Something's wrong. It doesn't feel right. And then I look around and go, oh, that's because every stinking thing in my home is a neutral. My brand is neutrals. That's it. And so it's like, and green, neutrals and greens. That's my brand. Yes. And so I mean, that happened with you and your brand, Melissa. It wasn't sitting right with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the things you surround yourself with, you surround yourself with your brand colors. You just do. And so we make it too complicated. We
Mm.
really do. We make it too complicated. If you are a lively, vivacious people person like Melissa, and your brand colors are anything but lively, vivacious, and drawing people in, you're not hitting it. And so you really need to, I mean, really just what makes you sing, what makes your heart leap, what are you drawn to at a store, what colors, what things, what music, what, all of those things go into making us who we are. And if it really is not difficult to, once we've pegged that, to then say, okay, so I am a person that if you use three words, this is not me, right? Like if I was describing someone else. Hello, puppy. The words to the words to describe someone would be joy and peace and um alive, right? So if you know anything about color psychology and you're working on colors, you can go and you can get a color psychology chart and you can look at the colors that correspond with those words that really are embodied by that person, and you can find colors that would equate to those words. So joy is yellow. Like I look at Amy's, little picture and it's yellow, and that is Amy because she is joy. And so peace is usually blue. It's very calm, right? Alive would be, things that are vibrant like oranges and yellows and um, I try to steer clear of like a true red, because if you're going to use it, it needs to be like little pops of red here and there because red can be a very aggressive color. And it'll either draw aggressive people or it will turn people away. So if that's the type of person that you're trying to attract as an ideal client, then absolutely use red. But it's not for everybody. But you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know what you're saying. Now that my dog has calmed down, I can actually tune in to what you're saying too, Jan. And that's why you love the podcast. It's authentic and real, and that's my brand.
Yes, it is.
It really is. Talk about lively. That's good. I think it's great too to think about like who you are. We talk about that a lot in the social media mentorship, thinking about literally who you are. It's like a journey of self-discovery that then you're truly just expressing Christ in you to the world. And that is what your personal brand is.
Yeah.
I do actually too want to hear your thoughts, Jan, on why is it important? Like, what do you see as far as like helping people build their personal brand, especially as Christians? Why is it important, and what are ways that you're seeing people do that?
I'm going to make sure I understand the question that you're asking me. Why is it important to build a personal brand? Well, so steer me back if I'm going down the wrong trail, Melissa.
I'll steer you.
Thank you. Just love the magic of editing. You just cut that part out. Um, so the Lord has put each and every one of us here on this planet right now for a reason. There's a reason that we weren't born 100 years ago or 100 years from now. He has a purpose and a plan for each and every one of us. And there's no two people on this planet that are made exactly the same. Everybody has unique characteristics, unique callings, unique purpose, and that is our personal brand. Our purpose, the reason that the Lord put us here, is our personal brand. He has branded us, and it is our job to put that out into the world. And if we don't, if we are keeping that close, if we're afraid, if we're not stepping out in faith and courage to put ourselves out there, there's a piece missing that the Lord has designed for this very time and place. And there's somebody who needs what you have that's not going to get it because they can't get it exactly the way that the Lord has planted it in you.
Mm.
And so we're just, I know this is the Enneagram 8 in me, y'all. So just that know that that's the filter that always is. But I struggle with when we have been put here for a purpose and a design and we're not fulfilling that design, are we sinning?
Mm.
I mean, that's in your face. But I think if we really were to dig in and we were to stand before the Lord and say, was I sinning when I didn't do what you asked me to do, when I didn't show up as my full self because I was afraid or fearful and I was afraid that people would laugh at me or not like what I had to put out in the world or whatever. Yes, he would say, yes, yes, you were. I
Mm.
designed you for this. I've equipped you for this, and I will walk beside you as you walk into this. But if you don't do it, you're not doing what I've asked you to do.
Yeah, that's really good, Jan. And that's really convicting too, because I think sometimes we want to like use fear as an excuse, like, well, I'm just afraid, or like Jesus almost just like has, which he does have mercy and compassion for us, obviously. But at the end of the day, if we're designed for it and we're made for it, and God calls us to step out and make disciples of all nations, and we're choosing fear, then I think that's where what you're saying has a lot of validity. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good, Jan. What do you see are ways that people are building their personal brand? If it's not through social media, what do you think are ways that people can do that?
Well, so that's a really good question. I feel like social media gets everything gets lumped into the social media category, but there are things that are probably put into that category as kind of um, incorrect little blocks that don't really belong in the social media category. I think that YouTube is one of those. It's not a social media platform, it's a search engine. Pinterest, also not social media, also a search engine. And I think for people who have, well, let me just use this example. So, social media, your stuff lives for minutes, seconds in somebody's feed. If you're really lucky and you're really good, maybe your stuff catches some algorithm and it can, be viral for a couple of days. I don't know, Melissa, what your longest content has really caught attention, but probably not super long, right?
Mm.
Um, Whereas there are some other platforms like Pinterest and YouTube. Podcasting is huge. It's definitely on the rise. Um, those things you can search for and your content lives indefinitely. I listened to one podcaster who is very, very big on building her business through Pinterest. It really is the main way that she builds her business. And she says that she still, on a daily basis, is getting revenue from posts that she has had in the Pinterest space for years
Mm.
because the algorithm is a search engine like Google. And if someone is searching for what she has to offer, they put in the keywords and it pops up, and it doesn't matter how old it is. You don't get that on social media.
Mm. Yeah, that's really good, Jan. So you're saying just diversifying the platform and really picking the
Yep.
platform that's really going to achieve whatever goal it is that you really want.
Yep.
Where are you doubling down in 2024?
Oh, podcast for sure. 100% podcast.
Tell us why.
Well, for starters, because I was disobedient for all of 2023 when I knew that I was supposed to have started a podcast and I didn't do it. And a lot of that was fear holding me back, and you know, negative self-talk got in the, nobody needs to hear what I have to say. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. No one's going to listen, blah, blah, blah. And, the Lord just really yanked me around and said, look, I told you to do this, and it's not up to you to put it in front of the right people. It's up to me to put it in front of the right people. So please let me do my job. But I
Yeah.
can't do my job if you're not doing your job. So do your job. So I launched a podcast January 4th. It's very exciting. Just today was episode 14. Um, and so for me, podcasting is a really big deal. I think secondary to that is I am choosing the path of least resistance for me, and I am creating one piece of content that can go in multiple places, including Pinterest, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels. And so it just is, it's the amount of time that I have right now. It's where I'm willing to invest that time, and we're just going to let the Lord do the rest.
Yeah. That's great. I love that you have chosen something to put content out in, because I think podcast is another way you can grow your personal brand. It's another
Absolutely.
way of consuming content that is a great way to build community, and it's something that you own, right?
Yep.
It's your platform.
Checks all the
So
boxes.
yeah, so I love that you have a plan, a consistent plan to do that, and I think that that's awesome in order to explore long form content. Social media is really just short form. People get a snippet or a blurb.
Yep.
But if someone's going to invest, 20 minutes with you, 30 minutes with you to listen to your show, they're probably a more qualified lead. And so it's also good, just a plug, that whatever lead magnet you have, right? If you have it on a podcast, talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm something that I've been thinking about is talking about it in the beginning. I should have done that on this podcast episode. Talk about your lead magnet when you open the show and invite people in, rather than saving it for the end. So that's something I think that is great, but just leveraging content. I think at the end of the day, as long as you're being faithful to steward the message that God's put inside of you, whether it's, social media, whether it's podcasting, whether it's blogging, whether it's, being faithful with that email list, I truly believe that if we're faithful, God brings the growth in whatever area that we need. I think what's just where the strategy comes is truly not looking at what everybody else is doing, but leaning into God's voice for your business, your brand, and doubling down on that. I've been looking at LinkedIn more and more. That's something that I've been thinking about. So I think it's about that, especially as Christians, especially as believers.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think LinkedIn is another platform that is in my future. I can't wrap my head around also doing that at the same time. So I'm going
Yeah.
to wait until the Lord releases me and says, okay, go.
Yeah.
But I will say this, when going back to the funnel piece, when you're talking about long form versus short form content, sorry, everyone needs a platform, whatever it is, for long form content. Everybody, whether it is YouTube with videos, whether it is audio with podcasting, or whether it is written blog, everybody should have long form content. Because, and by long form content, a blog doesn't have to be 3 pages long. It could be 5 paragraphs long, right? But that's longer form that most people are going to put on a 1 paragraph social media post. It's a place that you're getting more of your personal brand, more of your thoughts, more of your purpose, more of your mission out into the world. And then you take that one piece of long form content. So I'll just give you an example of what I do. Right or wrong, this is how Jan's funnel works. Okay. So I put out the podcast. I record it on video. So it also goes on YouTube, right? One piece of content, YouTube. I take the audio out. I put that on my podcast. I create a transcript, and then I use the transcript as a basis for a blog post. It's not word for word transcript, but I run it through ChatGPT. Hallelujah. Take this podcast transcript and turn it into an outline of a blog post for me. So then it takes the transcript, creates this outline, and then I can fill it in as a blog post. So I post that. So now I not only have one piece of long form content, but I have 3 pieces of long form content that are going to reach different demographics. And then I use an app called Headliner. I know that Melissa's team also does this for people, but Headliner uses AI. Melissa's team is probably all like very painstakingly finding the little nuggets, and AI doesn't always hit it. People, real humans, always better. But I use an app called Headliner, and it picks what it thinks will be the most popular points in my long form content, and it pulls those out so I can create audiograms from them. And I use those audiograms. If people don't know what an audiogram is, it's basically a social media post that just has a wave line for your voice, and you just overlay your voice on it. So it goes into social media as a video, so it would be a reel, or a post, but it has audio with it. And then I take that and I'll post it on all of my social media. I'll post it on YouTube Shorts. So it's taking those long form content pieces and then narrowing it down, narrowing it down, narrowing it down, and then putting it all the places.
Mm. Well, that's a lesson in repurposing content, everyone. If you want to know how you can take one piece of content and turn it into multiple, that is such a great strategy. I know somebody who's a genius at this, and he calls it a content waterfall. And
Yeah.
he will write an email on Sunday night, or sorry, a blog post Sunday night. And then he uses that as content for his training and his mentorship. And then simultaneously, he makes that training a podcast. And then the next day, he turns that into a blog post that he sends out to his email list. And then he turns it into short form video content. So I love the idea of people using long form content to really make it bite sized. Because at the end of the day, social media is a modern day business card. It's a way that people look at to see, people do obviously look at numbers and metrics, but I think at the end of the day, even for myself, people are smart and see genuineness. If you're showing up on video or you're creating content and just you're being genuine and authentic, that really goes a long way. And that is one thing that I love about video. I had somebody the other day reach out to me for a speaking event, and he was like, "Oh, I've watched your videos on social media." I'm like, "Great." So even when people aren't commenting or posts aren't going viral, you just need the right people to see your stuff. And I think that is important. It's not the be all and end all like maybe it was in 2010 when you started, Jan, but I think that it's necessary and it's important, and it helps you hone your message better.
Well, I think
So
that if you're not on social media, if you don't have some type of presence on social media, people who are looking to book you for whatever it is won't,
yeah.
because there's something wrong with you. What, she doesn't have social media? What is wrong with this person? I think that, I don't know, this hit me last night. I don't remember what took me down the rabbit hole, but I started thinking about Facebook stalking or Instagram stalking. Um, and really that is, we use that as kind of this terminology of how we find people, how we discover who they are. I'm going through the process of interviewing applicants for my podcast. And what's the first thing I do? I stalk them on social media because I want to know who they are, because that is their personal brand. And do I want to associate myself with their personal brand?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just one more reason that your brand has to be strong. You need to be who you are. One of the things that again, it's all the Enneagram 8, y'all.
Go
You
for it,
get to
Jan.
see what you get.
Bring the fire, Jan.
Just when we can't be who we authentically are in every space that we occupy, whether it's in person or whether it's online, we have got to bring the very truest, authentic self forward, because those are the people who are going to be drawn to you, are the people who God has for you. So be who you are and be that everywhere. everywhere.
Yeah.
It, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that.
I love that. I love that. And what's so funny too is the fear that can come with that. Of like, what are people going to think? If I post this, you think of that random uncle that's going to say something to you at the next family gathering. Like everybody has that in the back of their head. But I think that's where something that we say too is thinking about that person on the other side of the screen. Yourself 5 years ago, right? Who are you trying to show up for, and what's your content doing as far as setting that person free? And being authentic, Jan, right? Be your Enneagram 8 self.
Don't know
But
how to be anything else.
you don't know how to be anything else. I know. It's great. I love it. That's why I love you. But, authentically being yourself. And I think that even thinking of social media, we've talked about this a lot in this group, in the mentorship, of what does it look like to really be vulnerable and really be authentic. I did a podcast yesterday with the Girls Gone Holy show, and after I was like, I don't think I should post that. I think I showed up a little too vulnerable. And they were like, you were just saying, be more vulnerable. So it's when you feel like you put your guts out on the table and people can assess it. That's probably when you feel like you've shared, But I think that's what people are looking for too with social media and a strong brand, is just being yourself.
Well, I think that when one of the things that helps me is, what's the worst that can happen? If you put yourself out there, if you're vulnerable, if you're doing what you like, don't get me wrong. We should have filters. We should have a gut check, right? If something is questionable, because as much as we try to be like Jesus all the time, sometimes the enemy takes over.
Yeah.
And so we need to be asking ourselves the right questions. Is the Lord actually quickening this in my spirit, or is this just something that my humanity is getting the best of me, right? So always have a filter. But if you really feel like the Lord is quickening something in your spirit to put out there and to be your authentic self and to be vulnerable, there's a reason for it. There is someone who needs what you're experiencing. And again, the question, what's the worst that can happen? So Uncle Joe sees it and makes a comment at Thanksgiving dinner in a few months. So what?
Right. So good, Jan.
So what?
One of the things I know you're great at is websites, web design. So if anyone needs a website, Jan is the person to contact. But how can people find you, Jan? How can they get connected to you?
Social media. In most places, it's just at Jan Touchberry. Touchberry, just like touch and berry, one word. And then my website is currently jantouchberry.com. I'm working on the new brand collaborative big reveal of the new website. That's not quite ready yet because I'm too busy with everybody else. It's like, the hair person who can't cut their own hair, or nail person whose nails look like, poo. My website's not done yet. So there you go.
I love it, Jan. Well, you are so gifted at that, and so gifted at helping people recognize who they are and putting it in a digital footprint. So thank you so much for being on the show today. And for the ladies in the social media mentorship, we're going to go to Q&A. And if you are interested in knowing more about the social media mentorship, you want to help understand more of what your message is and get clear on who you are, then check out the link in the show notes and be here next week for another episode on the She Can Share podcast.
And there you have it, friends. I hope you got some value out of the She Can Share podcast that Melissa so graciously shared with us this week. If you want to follow her, I'm going to leave the link for her podcast and all of her social media stuff in the show notes this week, because she's definitely someone that is worth following in all of the places. And stay tuned, because in a few weeks coming up, she is going to be a guest on this podcast, and you get to hear all about her goodness. So with that, signing off. Have a great week. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Her Faith at Work. If the Lord put someone on your heart that you think needs to hear this message today, will you just smash that share button? And if you haven't already followed the show, I would love for you to do that.
super extra points if you hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That helps the algorithm pick us up and drop us right in the AirPods of people that need to hear what the Lord is saying to them today. I hope you'll come back for the next episode of Her Faith at Work. The podcast comes out every Wednesday. And if you look down in the show notes, I've even got a couple of free downloads for you that I think you will really enjoy. With that, have a great week. See you next time.